fourth grade teacher at Citizens of the World Charter School Silver Lake in Los Angeles, California. My school is a really unique place because we are diverse by design. So we do a lot of very intentional recruiting of students from different neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and we really want our student body to represent the diversity that Los Angeles has to offer. In my class, I've had students whose families are extremely affluent, and I've also had students who are living in transitional housing or homeless shelters, all in the same space. And I think that diversity is something that is really special and really unique. And while it obviously will pose some challenges, it gives such really wonderful opportunities for students to learn from each other and learn how to, respect differences and talk about them in ways that are proactive rather than disparaging. I've had a lot of success doing units about race and racism and privilege and finding ways to make it non-threatening to certain families who might not really engage in those conversations outside of this type of setting. One we did about privilege that I really loved a lot. We read Number the Stars and talked about the Holocaust and learned a lot about how Jews had been dehumanized and targeted, and recognized that in the context of this story, a Christian girl and her family help protect and save one of her Jewish friends. That religion in this context was a privilege, and they recognized that they had access and power that other people didn't, and what really mattered the most was what you did with it. I have had kids who, during your typical reading, writing, math lesson, probably look like they could be falling off asleep at the time. But when you start talking about issues like immigration or the presidential election or, voting rights or gay rights, they have so much to say and they have so much to volunteer. And I think it really does our students a disservice if we pretend that children don't know about these things and aren't curious about these topics, because kids are exposed to the exact same things that adults are, whether or not we want to admit it. If you can't talk about race comfortably, how are we ever going to end systemic racism in our country? And I think it's really important to have these conversations with children because they have this very clear, pure, less biased way of looking at the world where they haven't learned that these topics are things that they should be afraid of. So they're more willing to sit down and have a conversation about it. If we can get them at this age now, where they're ready to sit and listen to different perspectives and express how they feel, I just have so much more hope for the future of our communities, because I have a better feeling that these kids are going to grow up appreciating those differences and being able to communicate about them in ways that our generation currently is not.
I would describe Ms. Kleinrock as amazing.
Inspiring.
Encouraging.
Compassionate. Her work is so relevant right now for our students, for our staff, for our community, for our world in general. The current events that we have is very reactive, and we need to have a proactive approach at a young age. And she's given that foundation for all of our students here as well.
I hope that all teachers know that this work is not just necessary, but it actually is a lot more doable than many people realize. It doesn't mean that you have to save the world all at once. It means that you can just choose one or two topics that you have a strong sense of passion about and just start by asking your students, what do you think about this, or how do you feel about this, and really letting them guide the way. But I think it's also really scary for teachers to have to relinquish that control, because you don't always know what students are going to bring to the table. But if we're not honoring their backgrounds and experiences and where they're coming from, we're doing them a disservice. All students need to be able to be seen in their classroom, not just as token minorities. We need to make sure that our students of color see that they have a place here, not just as the kid you call on when it's Black History Month, and that we have representation in our classrooms, that when we read books about Latino characters, it's not just because it's Cesar Chavez Day, but because that we value who they are as individuals. The same thing needs to happen in our classroom and our lessons too. Not all students are going to be comfortable sharing parts of themselves in the class, but if you invite them to and make it known, you don't know what they're going to be able to do. You don't know what they're going to share, but at least give them that opportunity.